Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Savita from University of Delhi. Today we are going to discuss about the module Mechanical Properties Part 1, which is from the paper Electronic, Magnetic and Optical Properties of Materials. After studying this module, you should be able to understand concepts of stress and strain, tension tests, compression tests, shear and torsional tests, geometric considerations of the stress state, elastic deformation, and lastly the stress and strain behavior. Let us first introduce to mechanical properties. Before getting into the details, let us first getting introduced with the basic things. In determining the fabrication and possible practical applications, the mechanical properties of materials, that is their strength, rigidity and ductility, are of vital importance. The important mechanical properties of materials are elasticity, plasticity, strength, ductility, hardness, brittleness, toughness, stiffness, resilience, malleability, fatigue, creep, etc. 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 So first of all, we will take the basic introduction of the first property, which is the elasticity. It is the property of a material which enables it to regain its original shape and size after deformation within the elastic limit. However, in nature, no material is perfectly elastic. That is, a certain limit exists for every material beyond which it will not be able to regain its original shape and size. This limit beyond which it will not be able to regain its original shape and size is termed as elastic limit. Materials with high elastic limit are called as more elastic than the others. This property is always desirable in metals, used in machine tools and other structural constituents. Steel and rubber are amongst the common examples of materials having elasticity. Then the next property for which we are going to have some basic idea is the plasticity. As it is derived from the elasticity term, it is the ability of material to be permanently deformed without fracture even after the load is removed. To some extent, all materials are plastic. This property of a material, which is extremely opposite of elasticity, is of importance in deciding manufacturing process like forming, shaping, extruding operations, etc. Metals possess more plasticity at higher temperatures. Usually, plasticity of a material increases with temperature, and this is important in deciding the further operations. Plastic deformation takes place only after the elastic range has been exceeded. A general expression of plastic action would involve the time rate of strain, since in the plastic state, materials can deform under constant sustained stress. It would also involve the concept of limit of deformation before rupture. Evidences of plastic action in structural materials are called yield, plastic flow, or creep. Then the next property whose basics we are going to revise here is ductility. Ductility is defined as the property of a metal by virtue of which it can be drawn into wires or elongated before rupture takes place. It is the deformation produced in a material at the breaking point and is measured by the percentage of elongation and percentage of reduction in area before rupture of test piece. Its value is expressed as elongation, that is, percentage elongation is most widely used to measure ductility. The term percentage elongation is the maximum increase in the length expressed as percentage of original length. Mathematically, we can express percentage elongation as percentage elongation, which is equal to increase in length divided by original length, which this entire term multiplied by 100, which we can write as LF, which is the increase, well, final length, minus L naught. So LF minus L naught gives you the increase in length divided by L naught, and this complete term multiplied by 100. Similarly, the term percentage reduction of cross-sectional area is the maximum decrease in cross-sectional area. Mathematically, we can express the percentage reduction in cross-sectional area as decrease in cross-sectional area divided by original cross-section area multiplied by 100. In the symbolic form, we can write it as A naught minus AF, which gives the decrease in the cross-sectional area, divided by A naught, which is the original cross-sectional area, and this entire term multiplied by 100. In the above relations, L and A represents the length and area of cross-section respectively. F and O are respectively the suffixes to denote the final and the original values. Now the next is ductility is a measure of the amount of permanent deformation that has occurred when the material reaches its breaking point. Copper is a ductile material which show considerable plastic flow due to high ductility before fracture. One can draw wires of copper due to this property. The order of ductility of few common metals is as following. The first one, that is the highest one, is the gold. Second is platinum. Third is silver. The fourth one is iron. Fifth is copper. Then next comes aluminium. Then nickel. Then zinc. Then tin comes. And lastly, that is the lead. Ductility is an important property of a material which governs its ability to be deformed in processes, that is, drawing, rolling, and forging. Adequate ductility ensures that the material during these processes will not fracture. There is an associated property by virtue of which sheets can be rolled from material, which is called malleability. We must note that for any given material, the strength and ductility are inversely proportional to each other. Any treatment which increases strength decreases the ductility. Ductility and strength Both are appreciably affected by temperature. Then the next property comes is strength. Strength may be defined as the capacity of material by virtue of which it can withstand or support an external force or load with rupture. It is expressed as force per unit area of cross section. This is most important property of a metal which plays a decisive role in designing various structures and components. A material has to withstand different types of load. That is, for example, tensile, compressive, and shear load. Accordingly, we can broadly classify strength into two categories. First, we can divide depending upon the value of stress. The strengths of a metal may be elastic or plastic. Then the second category is divided depending upon the nature of stress. The strengths of a metal may be tensile, compressive, shear, bending, and torsional. Now, in this module, we are going to study all these types of strengths. Concepts of stress and strain. If a load is static or changes relatively slowly with time and is applied uniformly over a cross section or surface of a member, the mechanical behavior may be ascertained by a simple stress-strain test. There are three principal ways in which a load may be applied, namely tension, compression, and shear. As we can see in the given figure, we can see all the three ways in which load may be applied, that is tension, compression, and shear. In engineering practice, many loads are torsional rather than pure shear. This type of loading is illustrated in the second figure given above. These figures describes the schematic illustration of how a tensile load produces an elongation and positive linear strain. Then the B part of the given figure schematically illustrates of how a compressive load produces contraction and negative linear strain. The C part of the figure describes representation of a shear strain, and the fourth part, which is the D part, it describes schematic representation of torsional deformation. Tension tests. One of the most common mechanical stress-strain tests is performed in tension. A specimen is deformed, usually to fracture, with a gradually increasing tensile load that is applied uniaxially along the long axis of a specimen. A standard tensile specimen is shown in the given figure. Normally, the cross section is circular, but rectangular specimens are also used. This dog bone specimen configuration was chosen so that during testing, deformation is confined to the narrow center region. Narrow center region which has a uniform cross section along its length, and also to reduce the likelihood of fracture at the ends of the specimen. The standard diameter is approximately 12.8 mm or 0.5 inches, whereas the reduced section length should be at least 4 times this diameter, that is 60 mm in common. So the given figure shows the tensile load applied uniaxially along the long axis of a specimen. The output of Such a tensile test is recorded usually on a computer as load or force versus elongation. These load deformation characteristics are dependent on the specimen size. For example, it will require twice the load to produce the same elongation if the cross-sectional area of the specimen is doubled. To minimize these geometrical factors, load and elongation are normalized to the respective parameters of engineering stress and engineering strain. Engineering stress is defined by the relationship sigma is equal to force divided by A naught, in which F is the instantaneous load applied perpendicular to the specimen cross section in units of newtons or pounds force, and A naught is the original cross sectional area before any load is applied in the units of meter square or inches square. The units of engineering stress, referred to subsequently as just stress, are megapascals, where megapascal is the SI unit, and 1 megapascal is equal to 10 raised to the power 6 newtons per meter square and pounds force per square inch, which is generally given as PSI, which is the customary US unit. Engineering strain is defined according to epsilon equal to Li minus L naught upon L naught, which gives delta L divided by L naught. Here L naught is the original length before any load is applied and Li is the instantaneous length. Sometimes the quantity Li, L naught is denoted as L and is the deformation elongation or change in length at some instant as referenced to the original length. Engineering strain, subsequently just called as strain, is a unitless quantity, but meters per meter or inches per inch are often used. The value of strain is obviously independent of the unit system. Compression tests. Compression stress strain tests may be conducted if in service forces are of this type. A compression test is conducted in a manner similar to the tensile test, except that the force is compressive and the specimen contracts along the direction of the stress. The given two equations are utilized to compute compressive stress and strain respectively. The given two equations are which we have just defined about the stress and strain. By convention, a compressive force is taken to be negative, which yields a negative stress. The topic is shear and torsional tests. For tests performed using a pure shear force is also shown in the given figure. The shear stress tau is computed according to tau is equal to F divided by A naught, where F is the load or force imposed parallel to the upper and lower faces, which has an area of A naught. The shear strain is defined as the tangent of the strain angle as indicated in the figure. The units for shear stress and strain are the same as for their tensile counterparts. Torsion is a variation of pure shear wherein a structural member is twisted in the manner of the given figure D part. Torsional forces produce a rotational motion about the longitudinal axis of one end of the member relative to the other end. Examples of torsion are found for machine axles and drive shafts and also for twist drills. Torsional tests are normally performed on cylindrical solid shafts or tubes. A shear stress is a function of the applied torque T, whereas shear strain is related to the angle of twist as shown in the figure D. The topic is geometric considerations of the stress state. Stresses that are computed from the tensile, compressive, shear and torsional force states represented in figure given below act either parallel or perpendicular to planar faces of the bodies represented in these illustrations. Consider the cylindrical tensile specimen that is subjected to a tensile stress applied parallel to its axis. Furthermore, consider also the plane PP that is oriented at some arbitrary angle relative to the plane of the specimen and face. Upon this plane PP prime, the applied stress is no longer a pure tensile one. Rather, a more complex stress state is present that consists of a tensile or normal stress that acts normal to the PP prime plane, and in addition a shear stress that acts parallel to this plane. Using mechanics of materials principles, it is possible to develop equations for sigma prime and tau prime in terms of and as follows. Sigma prime can be written as sigma prime is equal to sigma multiplied by cos square theta, which gives or which is equal to sigma multiplied by 1 plus cos 2 theta divided by 2. We have converted cos square theta in terms of cos 2 theta. Tau prime is equal to sigma sin theta cos theta, which can be written as sigma multiplied by sin 2 theta divided by 2. These same mechanics principles allow the transformation of stress components from one coordinate system to another coordinate system that has a different orientation. The next topic is elastic deformation, which is the stress and strain behavior. The degree to which a structure deforms or strain depends on the magnitude of an imposed stress. For most metals that are stressed in tension and at relatively low levels, stress and strain are proportional to each other through the relationship sigma is equal to epsilon E. This is known as Hooke's law, and the constant of proportionality E, which has the units of gigapascal or psi, 6 is the modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. For most typical metals, the magnitude of this modulus ranges between 45 gigapascal, which is 6.5 into 10 raised to the power 6 psi for magnesium, to or and 407 gigapascal, which is 59 into 10 raised to the power 6 psi for tungsten. Deformation in which stress and strain are proportional is called elastic deformation. A plot of stress, which is the ordinate, versus strain, abscissa, results in a linear relationship, which you can see in the given figure. The slope of this linear segment corresponds to the modulus of elasticity E. The greater the modulus, the stiffer the material, or the smaller the elastic strain that results from the application of a given stress. Deformation in which stress and strain are proportional is called elastic. Elastic deformation is non-permanent, which means that when the applied load is released, the piece returns to its original shape. As shown in the stress strain plot, The application of the load corresponds to moving from the origin up and along the straight line. Upon release of the load, the line is traversed in the opposite direction back to the origin. There are some materials, for example grey cast iron, concrete and many polymers, for which this elastic portion of the stress strain curve is not linear, as shown in the figure. Hence, it is not possible to determine a modulus of elasticity as described previously. For this nonlinear behavior, either the tangent or the secant modulus is normally used. Tangent modulus is taken as the slope of the stress strain curve at some specified level of stress, whereas secant modulus represents the slope of a secant drawn from the origin to some point given on the curve. The determination of these moduli is illustrated in the given figure. As would be expected, the imposition of compressive, shear or torsional stresses also evokes the elastic behavior. The stress strain characteristics at low stress levels are virtually the same for both tensile and compressive situations, to include the magnitude of the modulus of elasticity. Shear stress and strain are proportional to each other through the expression tau is equal to G into gamma, where G is the shear modulus, the slope of the linear elastic region of the shear stress strain curve. Elastic properties of materials. When a tensile stress is imposed on a metal specimen, an elastic elongation and accompanying strain Z results in the direction of the applied stress, which is arbitrarily taken to be the Z direction, as indicated in the given figure. As a result of this elongation, there will be constrictions on the lateral, that is X and Y directions, perpendicular to the applied stress. From these contractions, the compressive strains epsilon X and epsilon X may be determined. If the applied stress is uniaxial, that is only in the Z direction, then the material is isotropic, that is, then epsilon X will be equal to epsilon Y. A parameter termed Poisson's ratio, which is given by the symbol nu, is defined as the ratio of the lateral and axial strains, or which is given as nu is equal to minus epsilon X divided by epsilon Z, which is equal to minus epsilon Y divided by epsilon Z, because above we have seen that epsilon X is equal to epsilon Y. For isotropic materials, shear and elastic moduli are related to each other and to the Poisson's ratio according to the relation capital E equals to 2 multiplied by capital G multiplied by 1 plus nu. In most metals, capital G is about 0.4 capital E. Thus, if the value of one modulus is known, the others may be approximated. It shows the figure which is showing axial, that is the Z elongation, which is a positive strain, and lateral, that is X and Y contractions, which is a negative strain, in response to an imposed tensile stress. Solid lines represent dimensions after stress application, while the dashed lines represents before application of the stress. Many materials are elastically anisotropic, that is, the elastic behavior. For these materials, the elastic properties are completely characterized only by the specification of several elastic constants, their number depending on characteristics of the crystal structure. Even for isotropic materials, for complete characterization of the elastic properties, at least two constants must be given. So students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. First of all, we have learned the details about the elasticity, plasticity, strength, ductility, hardness, brittleness, toughness, stiffness, resilience, malleability, fatigue, creep. Then secondly, we revise the concepts of stress and strain and the tension tests, compression tests, shear and torsional tests. Then next we learned about the geometric considerations of the stress state, elastic deformation and the stress strain behavior. And in the end we studied about the elastic properties of materials. Thank you.